What's up everybody? Thanks so much for clicking on the video. It is great to see you all. So this video is all about cheat meals, why I think they're stupid and what you should do to change it. Let's get into it. So a cheat meal is a planned indulgence on any meal plan, whether you be in a calorie deficit, a sustainable meal plan, or a surplus if you're trying to put on weight. And what this allows you to do is allows you to throw inhibitions to the wind and eat just whatever you want to eat. I have loads of issues with this, and my number one main issue is that it really reinforces that good versus bad food attitude. And I really disagree with that. But before I get into all this, let's go have a look at what I'd eat for a cheat meal. That was epic. So you can see there, I had myself a big old stack of pancakes, loads of bacon, loads of maple syrup and some blueberries and strawberries thrown in. Then I went and got myself a load of coffee. So cheat meals per se, my biggest issue, as I said before, is they reinforce the good versus bad foods ideology that everyone seems to be pushing when you sit there and go, oh, that's good and that's bad. While I believe there is a little bit of positive outcome towards this, that you have a overall knowledge, but if you start labeling foods as good and bad, it tends to lead you to overeat on both. And what I mean is that if you see a good food as good, you kind of go, well, I can eat as much as I want because it's good for me, it's healthy. But at the end of the day, it's not really the case. My biggest example is all natural peanut butter, and as you see loads of people going on about it, you know, Meridian, it's all natural, it's just 100% nuts blended up, but peanut butter is a really high caloric affair. There's loads of fat in it, you know, a really decent amount of it is obviously not saturated, which is why people tend to think it's good and good fat. And there's a decent amount of protein, but it really raises the calories if you start piling on the grams of protein, grams of peanut butter that you're adding into your diet. Now, bad foods, and the reason why I think that it leads to overeating is because you go for in for a penny, in for a pound kind of attitude. I think that for me to explain this properly, I need to explain to you leptin and ghrelin. Now, leptin is the hormone that's coursing around your system that you feel full so you don't eat. And ghrelin is that hunger hormone where you're feeling very, very hungry and you just want to eat. Now, the problem with being in a calorie deficit, for instance, if that's your plan, is that your leptin levels are lowered and ghrelin runs riot. So you're kind of like constantly feeling hungry, you feel terrible, all you want to do is eat, and the ghrelin chemical, all it does is remind you of that all the time. So those two chemicals, they work together. So what you then tend to do is on a Friday or a Saturday, you go, right, okay, one of those meals is going to be my cheat meal. Now this is where in my opinion, you're cheating yourself. You start to refer to it as a cheat meal, you can eat whatever you want, and you're automatically demonizing the food you're eating. You're saying, oh, I'm cheating, is this bad? Is this bad for me? You know, that kind of ideology that what you're eating is bad for you. When in actual fact, you can plan for that cheat meal to happen. So say for instance, you know that you're going out on a Friday or Saturday night and you're going for a meal with your friends, and it's going to be a really big calorie affair. You know, you're going to get yourself a massive Domino's pizza or something, or you're going out for a meal. If you taper off throughout the week 100 to 200 calories from that, you'll be able to add those calories up, and it won't make a difference on the scale at the end of the week. Because as I say loads of times, like, calories over a day don't really matter. That consistent effort over a month, that's a big deal. So I think you should focus more on that. The idea that foods are good and bad, I think, promotes an unhealthy relationship with food, and it invariably leads to eating disorders and a multitude of other things. And I think you just need to be very careful about what you say when you categorize these food as good and bad. It was put in as a idea for people to make a quick choice, you know, oh, it's good food, I should eat that, it's a bad food, I shouldn't eat that. But people have taken it to so far to the extreme that, God forbid, they eat a slice of cake outside their birthday, you know. Christ, that's crazy, isn't it, you know? So obviously that's ridiculous. My solution to this cheap meal way of doing things and the understanding is that you don't kid yourself. Don't call it a cheap meal. Refer to it as a free meal, you know, and have a better attitude towards it. Understand that it will impact your goals if you overeat by 1,000 calories. But also understand that you don't have to overeat by 1,000 calories on a free meal. You can eat whatever you want, and if you feel good about it, if that's what you want to eat, then eat it. Don't feel so bad, and don't beat yourself up the next day because you've had a massive Domino's pizza. Who here has had a massive Domino's and the next day your body's in clip? Like, you are in a bad way. You're not sure of what to think, and your stomach's having a go at you, and you feel terrible, you feel lethargic. And like, free meals, they're not the best way of raising your leptin levels to make your stomach feel full again, because most of the time these free meals are not high in carbohydrate, they're high in fat, and that fat isn't very good at raising your leptin levels. It's much better to, on your free meals, to have a carb overload rather than a high fat content, and then you'll start to feel your leptin levels rise, you feel a bit fuller, and then you can reset yourself again. But my biggest thing is that you all, and everybody, I believe, needs to stop beating themselves up about eating quote unquote bad foods. If you were to go off plan and you haven't planned for it and it wasn't accounted for, and you're like, oh no, there was a donut and I ate it and that's an extra however many calories, 400 calories or whatever, you can taper that up over the next 3 or 4 days to not have such an effect. Don't just give up and go, you know what, I'm all in. On the Monday afternoon I had a donut and that's it, I'll start the diet next week and I'll go crazy. Account for yourself, be accountable on these free meals, and if they're unplanned, if they just happen, then over the next few days taper in your calorie intake and it won't have an effect on the scales. And then you can kind of like identify the problem of why it happened in the first place. The to the minute detail that some people do this with regards to having free meals and the macronutrient content and the micronutrient content and grams and grams and grams. Yeah, that's great if you're an elite level athlete. But if you're an average Joe like me, there's no need. Yes, all right, have a overall goal and insight of what you want to achieve and make steady steps towards it. But don't turn yourself inside out trying to achieve that like to the gram, because that can create an obsessive thought process over food and stopping yourself from enjoying yourself when you're around your parents on the weekend and they bring out your Sunday roast if you're watching this in the UK, you know, or you really want to have a giant bowl of pasta, you know, with some cheese sauce. If that makes you happy, then take that little win and then taper off over the next few days. Try not to beat yourself up over it. Stop the good and bad food relationship that you're calling these foods good and bad. Yes, all right, inherently some foods can be bad for you. If I were to eat 5 kilos of saturated fat, that would not do well for my body. But if it on the scale of calories, fat is fat, carbs are carbs, protein is protein. Don't allow yourself to get into that, oh, I can eat as much of brown rice as I want because it's good carbs, and I'm not allowed to eat white rice because it's heavily processed bad carbs. Like, that's when you're taking it to the 9th degree. Yes, all right, I make the basic choice of mostly having whole meal carbohydrate sources because I understand that it's good for my dietary tract. It slows things down. I feel fuller for longer. Leptin levels raised up. But don't go too crazy on it. That's my main thing, is that take everything in moderation is the big thing. Get rid of good and bad. Good and bad foods is, I hate that saying. Stop calling it a cheat meal because you're just going to end up causing yourself some issues. So really evaluate why these things happen if you go off plan. If it's not planned, if it isn't your free meal, evaluate why it's happened and taper off the next few days. If it is planned and you overeat then, still taper off the next few days. But if it is planned, make the right choices. Have a high carbohydrate meal. Trust me, you'll feel better for it. You can still have the pizza and stuff like that. Just make the choice. And you know what? If you don't choose the best choices and you feel terrible the next day, then maybe just taper off that and go, okay, fine. That is not so good for me. My body didn't react in a way I wanted it to, and change it. But don't do the same thing over and over again because you go, oh, it's my cheat meal. I need to have 2 giant bags of Doritos, a massive bottle of Coke, and a Domino's pizza because that's what I have every week. Be real with yourself about what makes you feel good about food. Don't cheat for the sake of cheating. Cool. Anyway, rant over. Got some really good videos coming up, hopefully planned. I'm not going to tell you what they are because, hey, watch out on my Instagram accounts on the following at Adam D. Glover for my account and at Battleforged for this page's account. Give them a follow if you're not already. Oh wait, before I go, don't forget to, hey, if it's your thing, smash that like button, hammer it down if that's what you do. But I will see you next time. Peace.